fellow Toastmasters and guests, liberty, learning, and leadership. The great statesman and father of our Constitution, James Madison, once proclaimed, "What spectacle can be more edifying or more seasonable than that of liberty and learning, each resting on the other for their mutual and surest support." Hillsdale College is the embodiment of this vital link between liberty and learning, with its remarkable motto, "Pursuing liberty, defending freedom. How can you go wrong?" But before I talk about Hillsdale College, I want to take you back 175 years to the year 1838. We're in Springfield, Illinois, and a young, aspiring politician, 29-year-old Abraham Lincoln, is giving his first recorded political speech, the Lyceum speech for the Young Men's Lyceum in Springfield. This speech is very much related to the mission of Hillsdale College, even though Hillsdale would not be founded until 6 years later. The deep concerns that perplexed this 29-year-old Abraham Lincoln were the same deep concerns that Hillsdale College has and which have defined its mission. In this speech, Abraham Lincoln talks about the greatest cause. We think to ourselves, what is the greatest cause? Well, according to Abraham Lincoln, the greatest cause is establishing and maintaining civil and religious liberty. He talked about and very much admired the revolutionary generation. He called them the pillars of the temple of liberty. But by 1838, the revolutionary generation had all but died out. 12 years before, in 1826, both the great Thomas Jefferson and John Adams had passed away on the 50th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. And Lincoln was worried. He saw that the pillars of the great temple of liberty designed and built by our revolutionaries were crumbling. He saw a general lawlessness in the land, and he was perplexed. We have the same problem today. It's probably a perpetual problem. And the theme of Abraham Lincoln's speech, the Lyceum speech, was ultimately about the dilemma of how to perpetuate a free society, how to perpetuate these political institutions. And that is our dilemma. I think we are all grappling with this dilemma because today our temple of liberty is under rapid-fire assault. Just in the past week, as AJ went through, we've had a plethora of scandals. But should we be surprised? Because we have stepped off the path of constitutional rule. We now have an enormous machinery of government, a machinery that is grinding the proud fabric of our freedom. Which gets me to the subject of Hillsdale College. Hillsdale College, in contrast, is a bastion of liberty and learning. Now, Abraham Lincoln, in the Lyceum speech, said that the only way we are going to perpetuate our civic institutions is through sound education. And he pointed to the points of danger in our nation. The major threat as being a failure of sound civic education. And as we look out over our country, how many examples can we find of K through 12 education or higher education that even comes close to explaining and defending the principles of liberty and our Constitution? From what I see, we are offered a thin gruel. Hillsdale College is the exception. It's a national treasure. It has remained firm in its commitment to defending the Constitution and the principles of liberty. It does this through a sound civic education and through the value that it puts on a liberal arts education. That is, a sound liberal arts education. Larry Arnn, the current president of the Hillsdale College, I love Larry Arnn. He's defined a liberal arts education as the study of ends, of the things for which choices are made and lives are lived. The study of the purposes of man, the nature of his rights, and the way he is to be governed. Now, Hillsdale College not only conveys these values to students, but in the past several years, particularly under the rise of the Obama administration and the terrible machinery of the federal government, Hillsdale College is reaching out to the American public. They have 4 online courses, 2 on the Constitution, 1 on Western heritage, and 1 on American heritage. Have any of you had a chance to see these? Excellent. We have a great start. But we need more. In addition to this, if you listen to the Hugh Hewitt program, every Friday is called the Hillsdale Hour. And you can listen for 1 hour with Hugh Hewitt interviewing Larry Arnn and one of the other professors on some of the great thinkers of the Western tradition. So you can learn about Plato and Aristotle, learn about the Bible, learn about the problems that civilizations throughout time have had and how we can address these issues ourselves. And the other very special endeavor that Hillsdale is undertaking is a K through 12 initiative called the Barney Charter School Initiative. And in this initiative, Hillsdale College is supporting the creation of charter schools throughout our country, which will basically teach a strong liberal arts curriculum to the students and provide them with the sound education they need to defend the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. We have one of those schools up in Fort Collins called, I think, Vista Ridge Academy. So if you ever want to visit, it's well worth going. I have not yet visited, but I have visited Hillsdale Academy and am deeply inspired by what they do. So if you're at odds with what to do, when you're feeling bombarded by the onslaught of what's happening in politics, think about Hillsdale College and what you might do to become a supporter. I think you'll be amazed at what you see. Now, as we stand here, just as Lincoln talked about in the Gettysburg Address, we have a great task remaining before us. We need to figure out ways to support efforts to combine leadership, learning, and liberty. If we are successful at this task, and we cannot fail in this task, we will, in the words of Lincoln, be performing a task of gratitude to our forefathers, a task of justice to ourselves, the task of duty to our posterity, and finally, the highest task of all, the task of love for our fellow man.